Hello, Kerri Birchall here, bound and determined to help our leaders shine their best. I am the proud president of North Star Coaching, and my specialty is really working with teams and leaders to build and improve trust so that we have better to help with communication so that we can build trust and improve productivity. A lot of innovation going on out there. I heard somebody recently sort of suggest that the pandemic was over. Wouldn't that be great? And regardless of where we're at in the pandemic, there is some hope. Things are stabilizing. We're having less of the yo-yo, and we're seeing the perfect dog here for her afternoon nap in the sunshine. Right, we're having some of these normal times together, be it the dog or otherwise. And so there's really a question around how do we sort of heal from the last couple of years, and what does that coping really look like? So I had the pleasure this morning, I lead a roundtable group, and the leaders had asked to spend a little bit of time talking about coping, in part because they work in an environment where the community chimes in a lot of negative things. And the leaders wanted just to keep sort of their head above water in thinking through how to respond to the community and some of the nasty stuff they say, honestly. And I've seen some of that in my social media stuff too. And I don't know about you, but just as a general statement, there's just poor behavior in the universe out there right now. It's like people are just depleted and we don't have as much self-discipline. So it involves coping even more. So let's talk through a couple of strategies and really just get personal on some things that I'm trying to do in my life that you can steal. And I'd love to hear from you on what you're doing to cope also. So if you're with me now, I love seeing some thumbs up on what you're doing to cope. Chime in a word or two to help me see other ideas on how we can cope and really heal and rejuvenate from some of the work that we're doing in our lives. So ideas that came up in the roundtable group, talking about coping as well as things in my own life. So I think more importantly, as a pervasive theme in today's live, is that idea that you have to be intentional about it. You know, we don't cope just by bearing through it and breathing day after day. Like, coping is intentional. We really need to be full of grit and determination and drive to get to that other side of whatever coping looks like for you. So some things that help me cope that may seem really maybe not significant, but they are intentional on my side and they help me. One is I always have a fun book on the go. Sometimes it takes me many moons to get through a book. I might read a half a page before I fall asleep at night. I'm reading right now Boys in the Boat, a story of the U.S. rowing team in the 1936 Olympics and how they mastered their rowing technique, and just an inspiring story, really. And I look for books that win awards. That's sort of my way of trying to get at books that might resonate for me. So, pick an award style that you like, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, whatever. Having a fun book on the go. Looks like the dog needs to go outside in the backyard here. And so part of my unwind every night to break off some thinking about work or other things is to always just have that fun book on the go. Another strategy that I've just recently started playing around with, and that's due to sort of the economy opening up, is to commit myself to some sort of class or event. So I just started taking a painting class. I have never done any art class in my life. So this was like brave and bold and something that I've had on my list. Like, my mom gave me watercolor paints a couple of years ago. Our fantastic neighbors gave me watercolor paints for Christmas. And I'm just too chicken to do it by myself, even though it's completely rejuvenating and fun. So the art class was part of that push, right? If you're going to pay for it, you have to show up, you have to be accountable. On the call today with the roundtable group, they were talking about committing to exercise classes. So somebody talked about joining up for a Zumba class, and she was doing it with people that were like in their 60s or 70s, and it was just fun to check on them, and it created community, and it forced her to work out, and win. So there's something around just a commitment, whether it's a running partner or a class that you've committed to or any of that kind of thing. Another structure that I have in the day is based on that dog you just saw go outside, So morning, I have a morning routine with her. In part, she makes me accountable to do the morning routine, which involves a walk or a run every day. Part of what helps me cope during that is not only the commitment to her as a dog. She needs to walk in the morning or she's going to drive me crazy during the day at work. It's also my commitment to myself. I rarely bring my phone. I go as long or short as I feel like it. There's just a pace where it's a time for me to sort of get centered, get focused on what the day has ahead. So that morning routine is really important. Here is another thing that might surprise you. When we moved to San Antonio, and this is a huge coping win for me, we do not set alarms in the morning anymore. Right? There is something super pleasant about not being woken up by an alarm. I mean, we used to wake up to Enya and all sorts of soothing noises, but I'm telling you, no alarm is the bomb.com. Give me a thumbs up if you're with me on the alarm. So we, there's a part of me, I think, that actually wakes up earlier because there's not an alarm set and it's just a more peaceful way to wake up. I don't know what all the psychology is around that, but one of my coping strategies is no alarm. And of course, I know in my head that it's not a Saturday, and the dog is going to wake me up anyway, so it's not like I'm sleeping until 10 or anything, but just, yeah, right, fun to share the no alarm. So coping strategies, reading a book before you go to bed, even if it's just a paragraph, committing to something outside where maybe you pay a fee or you have a running partner or there's just some sort of commitment. Also the walk in the morning for me, but more importantly, not having a phone and not being accessible so that I can be centered on that. No alarm, that is thebomb.com. And then the other thing that I sort of focus on when we think about coping is some of that grace and generosity for yourself. So 80% is good enough. I work and coach with leaders, and a consistent theme with the leaders that I support is just this feeling of being enough. If you're on my newsletter list, I've talked about this a little bit because my in-laws are in town visiting for 5.5 weeks. Thank goodness I like them. Still, I've wanted to be enough for them, and there's been some worry around that, and so that trickles out to other parts of my life that I'm not able to shine as much because I'm worried about being enough. It's crazy. And so really stepping back from that and giving yourself permission to say 80% is good enough in this crazy time. 80% is good enough. What can you let go and kind of give yourself some grace and generosity around, because there isn't perfect out there. And if you're a leader watching this, or a friend or a parent, we're dealing with people. And it's been a crazy couple of years. And even on good years, people are crazy. So we're never going to hit perfection when it comes to interacting with people and sort of creating goals and having the exact outcome that we anticipated with the goal. Good. Okay, coping strategy. Final one I'm sharing with you. You're getting all sorts of tips from Kerri today. Check this out. Tea. Now, compared to my head, it's a big bag of tea. So one of the ridiculous strategies I have is to make a pot of tea in the morning that I actually keep filling throughout the day. More importantly, that tea, you can't chug it back. It's hot. You've got to slow down. And so it's this moment in the morning of making a pot of tea, starting the computer, starting the day, being centered and just giving yourself some of those slow moments. So whatever slow looks like for you, that's the grace and generosity that we can give ourselves. I would love to hear from you. What are some coping strategies that you use to heal through pandemic craziness, life events, just a hard day? I'd love to know what some of your coping techniques are, and together we can create a big list and cope and thrive together. If you want to be on my LinkedIn or Facebook newsletters, let me know and I'll add you to the list. Otherwise, have a fantastic day, everybody. Send me a direct message on how you're coping and if you want to be in on those newsletters. Bye.